Hi everyone, I'm Anna and I'll be walking you through the article, The Pen is Mightier Than the Keyboard, Advantages of Longhand over Laptop Note-Taking by Mueller and Oppenheimer. This article is interesting because it was found through 3 studies that students who took notes on laptops performed worse on conceptual questions than those who took notes longhand. There were a few mistakes in the results of the studies that were pointed out in a later review, but overall the article is credible and a fascinating read. With the continuing rise of technology, laptop use in classrooms is seen quite a bit. The issue with this is that many professors believe that computers and the internet serve as a distraction, removing the value and focus from class discussions and student learning. Professors have noticed that students are not on task, there is a decrease in academic performance, and students are less satisfied with their education than their peers who do not use laptops in class. Taking notes on a laptop impairs the retention of class material if the student is not on task the entire time, supporting many studies that found that multitasking is very difficult and hard to do. Prior research from DeVesta and Gray focused on 2 ways in which note-taking can affect learning. First is the encoding hypothesis that suggests that the processing that occurs during the act of note-taking improves learning and retention. The second is the external storage hypothesis that praises the benefits of the ability to review material. Students can benefit from both of these effects if there aren't any distractions, but it all depends on how notes are being written. The encoding hypothesis and the external storage hypothesis can see inconsistencies depending on the note-taking strategies. Note-taking can be generative by summarizing, paraphrasing, and concept mapping. Notes can also be non-generative, such as verbatim copying, the act of quoting someone word for word. Verbatim note-taking has been generally seen to indicate relatively shallow cognitive processing. The more deeply information is processed during note-taking, the greater the encoding benefits. Through various studies by Aiken et al., it has been shown that verbatim note-taking predicts poorer performance than non-verbatim note-taking, especially on integrative and conceptual items. According to Mueller and Oppenheimer, there has been little research directly addressing potential differences in laptop versus longhand note-taking, and the existing studies do not allow for natural variation in the amount of verbatim overlap. An example of this is the amount of text in common between a lecture and the student's notes on that lecture. There are many reasons why students support note-taking on laptops or by longhand. Note-taking on a laptop means writing more notes quickly, but there aren't many encoding benefits to learn the material and be able to review with a true understanding. Mueller and Oppenheimer conducted 3 studies to investigate whether note-taking on a laptop versus writing longhand affects academic performance, and which factors come into play to make one strategy better than the other. In the first study, participants include 67 students, 33 who were male, 33 female, and 1 unknown, all from the Princeton University subject pool. Students were placed into either the laptop condition or the notebook condition. While streaming TED Talks, participants were asked to take notes how they normally would. Next, they were taken to a lab to complete 2 5-minute distractor tasks and a taxing working memory task. After 30 minutes, participants were to then respond to factual recall questions and conceptual application questions. An example being approximately how many years ago did the Indus civilization exist? And how do Japan and Sweden differ in their approaches to equality within their societies? For the analysis, an Ngram program was used to measure the extent of textual overlap between student notes and lecture transcripts. This program compares word chunks to find the difference in each note-taking medium, either by laptop or longhand. Researchers then converted the raw data to z-scores because of the different levels of difficulty in the assessments and the points available. Mueller and Oppenheimer found that participants performed equally on factual recall questions across conditions. In Figure 1, performance was converted to an index score where each question was worth 1 point. We can see that the z-scores for factual questions hugs the line to show that each note-taking medium came out with the same academic performance. It is important to notice that even with different lectures, there was no significant interaction between lecture and note-taking medium for factual questions because the answers are direct and specific. Participants that took notes on a laptop performed significantly worse than longhand for conceptual application questions, the asterisk in the conceptual data indicating the significant difference between laptop and longhand. In Figure 2, laptop note-takers took more notes as expected, but did not perform as well as the longhand note-takers, which supports the general hypothesis that laptops do affect academic performance. Regarding verbatim overlap, participants who took more notes performed better overall. Using the Ngram program, it was found that laptop notes contained an average of 14.6% verbatim overlap with the lecture, whereas longhand notes averaged only 8.8%. Now, even though we can write more notes on a laptop word for word, longhand note-taking negatively predicted verbatim overlap, and verbatim overlap negatively predicted performance. In the end, it may appear that laptops are better for getting more notes written exactly as the professor has them, but these notes will be lengthier. The greater the verbatim overlap in these lengthy notes, the more mindless the transcription of the material. In the second study, researchers wanted to look deeper into the effect of verbatim overlap as it has quite an effect on laptop note-taking. Researchers replicated Study 1 with the hypothesis being whether a simple instructional intervention could reduce the negative effects of laptop note-taking. Participants in this study included 151 total participants, 35 being male, from the University of California subject pool. There were 3 conditions: laptop non-intervention, longhand condition, and laptop intervention. Participants were randomly placed in one of 3 conditions and viewed one lecture on an individual monitor while wearing headphones. Those in the laptop non-intervention and longhand conditions were told to take notes however they'd like. In the laptop intervention condition, participants were provided only a laptop and told to take notes in their own words instead of word for word. Next, they completed a typing test, the Need for Cognition scale, academic self-efficacy scales, and a shortened version of the reading span task used in Study 1. Once all of this was completed, longhand notes were transcribed first before all notes were analyzed with Ngram's program. The results for this study showed that on conceptual application questions, longhand participants performed better than laptop non-intervention participants. The scores for laptop intervention did not significantly differ from the other 2 conditions. For factual questions, the differences were not significant as noticed in Figure 4. Similar to the first study, participants who took longhand notes wrote significantly fewer words than those who took laptop notes without receiving an intervention back in Figure 2 on Slide 5. One of the last factors researchers studied is verbatim overlap. Even though in the laptop intervention condition participants were told to write notes in their own words, the intervention was completely ineffective at reducing verbatim content. Mueller and Oppenheimer explained that the intervention thus did not improve memory performance above that for the laptop non-intervention condition, but was also not statistically distinguishable from memory in the longhand condition. These findings show that verbatim and academic performance have a negative relationship even with intervention, concluding that instructional intervention does not reduce the negative effects of laptop note-taking. In the third and final study, researchers wanted to explore the idea of laptop note-taking increasing the external storage capacity. This could boost performance on tests taken after an opportunity to study notes. Mueller and Oppenheimer created a 2x2 design to investigate whether the disadvantages of laptop note-taking for encoding are potentially mitigated by enhanced external storage. The hypothesis for this study is still investigating whether there are consistent differences for factual and conceptual questions. The participants in this study included 109 students, 27 of them male from the University of California subject pool. Participants viewed 4 lectures created by Butler, passages on bats, bread, vaccines, and respiration. Participants were provided either a laptop or pen and paper and were instructed to take notes on all the lectures. Everyone viewed all 4 lectures on individual monitors while wearing headphones. Researchers informed everyone that they would return in a week to be tested on the material. Upon return, participants in the study condition were given 10 minutes to review their notes, while the no study condition took the test immediately. The test consisted of 40 questions, 10 questions for each lecture. Researchers then transcribed the longhand notes before all notes were analyzed using the Ngram's program. For all question types, it was found that there were no main effects of note-taking medium or opportunity to study, but there was an interaction. Participants who took longhand notes and were in the study condition performed significantly better than the other conditions that were all below 0. For factual and conceptual questions, Students in the longhand and study conditions did significantly better than those in the other conditions. In all three studies, longhand note-taking has proven more than once that it is the method of note-taking all students should be engaging in. Yes, it is less words, but less words help us focus on the main points, and it is our shortened understanding of those points. Also, students in the study condition only had 10 minutes to study 4 lectures. Even with this small amount of time, their academic performance was still significantly better. But when participants were unable to study, there was not a difference between laptop and longhand note-taking. However, the study condition helps to support the hypothesis that suggests there will be consistent differences between factual and conceptual questions. As explored in the previous studies, in this study there was a significant difference in verbatim overlap, with a mean of 11.6 overlap for laptop note-taking and only 4.2% for longhand. There were no significant differences in word count or verbatim overlap between the study and no study conditions. For the participants that studied, verbatim overlap negatively predicted overall performance. It was found many times in this article that verbatim overlap is more detrimental for conceptual questions rather than factual. So writing large amounts of words that are not yours are harder to retain and stay at a shallow level of processing. Your academic performance for conceptual and factual can be achieved if notes are original, taken longhand, and reviewed to have a deeper understanding. To conclude, this study was packed with information about differences in note-taking behavior and which strategy is better. Laptops may be doing more harm than good even when used as intended. Having to focus on a long lecture the entire time is difficult, and laptops are too easily distracting having the internet just one click away. With the studies combined, laptop use can negatively affect performance on educational assessment whether focused or not and writing non-verbatim. Synthesizing and summarizing content rather than verbatim transcription can serve as a desirable difficulty toward improved educational outcomes. There were a couple limitations I noticed in this overall study. Some of the questions were difficult to the point that many participants in each condition could not answer. Therefore, we cannot wholly prove whether longhand or laptop note-taking is better, though there were great findings. Another limitation is that in Study 2, participants may not have answered honestly on the academic self-efficacy scales and the need for cognition scale, possibly altering conclusions. And this concludes the review for The Pen is Mightier Than the Keyboard: Advantages of Longhand over Laptop Note-Taking by Mueller and Oppenheimer. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them in the discussion.